Anyway, fall out of the plane. It's an amazing experience, and I think about the awe that I experienced, but then I also think about how the awe that Connor experienced too, and how that shaped our relationship. You are listening to Mentor Moments, where we talk about all things counseling, technology, education, and career development. I am Braden Wooters, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Michael Keener. Grab a seat, and let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Mentor Moments. My name is Braden Wooters.
And I'm Mike Keener. Welcome. Glad you could join us.
Before we hit record, Dr. Keener was cleaning up his desk, cleaning up his office space. I wanted him to keep it like disheveled so that, it looks like you're very deep into your sabbatical and very deep into your research. Like you've just got papers everywhere.
Yes. Well, I don't know. Is it a clean desk, clean mind, or scattered desk, scattered mind? I don't know. Or a little of both. So
That's kind of how I operate. Like I like it. For me, it feels like I did work. Like if I like step away and then my desk is like super like messy, I'm like, real work was done here today. But I haven't had a dirty desk in a little bit. So, how are you? How are things? Any updates? What's been going on in life?
life's good. And I thought, well, life's always good. I don't know if that sounded convincing or not, but I think there's always something you can be thankful for. And on Monday, I'm headed out to Kansas City, Missouri for a yearly leadership training that I do. So I get to see some old friends and make some new friends and spend 3 days with people from Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri, and different rehab state agencies. And we'll talk about Bowman and Deal's reframing organizations, do a little Clifton Strength Finders, and do some little professional engagement, all that good stuff.
For our listeners that are just still getting to know you or, learning more about kind of what you do with all of your time, how did you get in? Because this isn't the first time that you've done this.
I've
So
been
you've been doing
doing
this
this
for a while.
since 2017, 2018, taking 2 years off for COVID. In 2015, Maryville sent me to, can I do a Harvard brag? Can I?
Yes, I'm ready.
Maryville sent me to Harvard for 2 weeks to partake in a leadership management development program. It was amazing to be living basically in Cambridge, right? Like I had a hotel right there to be. It was kind of funny. At the end of the 2 weeks, I had my Boston Red Sox cap on, walking around, and tourists were coming up to me and asking me, hey, where's this? Hey, where's that? So, but there's people out from all over the country there, people from just other higher ed, and we just really dug deep into sort of 8 hours a day. The Bowman and Deal's reframing organizations, if we want to get into it real quick. So Bowman and Deal are researchers, and they basically examined all the different research theories that were out there and then did a synthesis, and they determined that any one theory is probably one of these 4 frames. So you think of a frame like, okay, I'm going to put this frame on or lens.
Mm-hmm.
So they said one is a structural frame. So that's efficiency, like a factory. So how can we have policies to ensure that we're going to do what we say we're going to do? If things aren't going well, we need to get a new policy, right? Efficiency, clear roles. There's another frame called human resources, and that's very much if an agency develops their staff or their employees, the employees will make the agency thrive. So very much a symbiotic relationship where people are at this together. The political frame is where there's knowledge of conflict is sort of natural in the decision-making process. There's limited resources. If you're the leader, you have to make tough decisions sometimes. And then, so it's all about making coalitions and bargaining and negotiating. And then the last one is the symbolic frame. It's all about culture. How do you create rituals and symbols and ceremonies to further your agency's mission and values? So
I had no clue that you went to Harvard. That's a new story for me. I didn't know that that was something that Maryville sent you to do.
yeah, the former vice president of academic affairs, Dr. Mary Ellen Finch, she still is a wonderful person. She's retired, but I just said, "Hey, I'm interested in developing and growing." She said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I had to apply and write a case study, and I was accepted. And Maryville, again, gave me the opportunity to go and grow. So, yeah.
I was thinking about those 4 frames that you were, like, sharing. I was like, "Okay, which one's the one that Dr. Keener feels more, like, aligned with?" And then that 4th one, I felt like I was like, "We talked about this." I don't wanna, like, make assumptions of, like, kind of where you tend to I don't know. Am I on the right
Yeah,
track?
yeah, very much so. I'm very much, I think, outwardly symbolic. I like to have rituals and ceremonies and celebrate our students and the graduates and make traditions. So, but I'm also then I do that in an HR frame that again I want to invest in and develop our students. So the symbolic and HR frame. I know I've talked about Coach Denny before, but when I talk about the 4 frames, I use real people at Maryville to demonstrate the frames. Well, and Coach Denny is the symbolic frame. He's always the man in black. He either has black, like, workout suit on, like he's ready to coach, or he's got a black suit on, right? He blows the shofar, the ram's horn before every practice. He sends people text messages to over 400 people text me every day, a quote, a motivational quote. He has lots of acronyms. He loves to hand out Maryville wrestling T-shirts. And he's all about, again, developing his wrestlers to be the best who they can be. So, but anyways,
It's fine. I wish that I feel like I have the closest to having a front row seat to, like, what you would teach in terms of that, but I do wish that I could be a fly on the wall in, like, one of those presentations that you give.
well, sign up next year. You can go.
You got it. I'm in. Um, any other big updates before we get to moment of the
I
week?
want to know if you have any updates.
I went to Shelbyville. For those listeners out there, I'm from Shelbyville, Illinois. Very, very small town of about 4,000. There's not a lot to do, but I love to talk about the two-story outhouse. Made I know, right? Like, this is the first time I've talked about it. I love the two-story outhouse. It's one of those funny things that I get to talk about and I get to share with people because they usually respond like that. Like, how does that even work? I don't even know how that would. What does that even look like?
Right.
And I
You know,
mean, when you picture it, it's kind of exactly what you expect.
who thought like a two-story house was a good idea? Like, why was, like, it's not like you're in Manhattan where you have to keep building up, right? Like,
No, like, what's the functional piece to it? Like, why? I don't know. And the thing is, when you go there, there's this little, like, pavilion area with a lot of, like, newspaper articles about it, like, dating back to, like, the 1800s. Like, this thing's been around. I'm sure that it's been, renovated and rebuilt plenty of times, but it's been around for a hot minute. But none of the newspaper clippings give a why. It's just almost like a shot, almost like an alien kind of like it just like Stonehenge. Like, we don't know why it's there. We don't know how it got there.
maybe there is a like sundial type.
Right? I mean, at least the difference is that with Stonehenge, we don't. I mean, we have an idea of what the purpose is. With the two-story outhouse, it's pretty clear what the purpose of it is. Yeah. So I don't know. I like that. I like that idea that, like, one day the villagers woke up and they went outside and it was just there, like a monolith. Oh God. Okay, let's get into our moment of the week.
Yeah.
Do you have any? I mean, any? I don't know. Anything that's been groundbreaking that's been, connectful for you over this week? I have one if you want me to go first.
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, that's fine. Because sometimes whenever I think about this, I have a hard time. I like this segment of our of it because it forces me to reflect. I wouldn't say that I'm the biggest reflection kind of person. So, well, yes and no, but it's been a good exercise in reflecting on my week, and my week right now has been pretty boring. I I am between jobs right now. Had my last day at Youth in Need, and then I've got this week off, which is this week, and then I start my new job over at Lindenwood on Monday. So I've been sitting here, and it's funny. I go through this pattern where I will like get super burnt out, and I'll say that I need like, oh, I would really love a long vacation, and then I get a vacation like this. It's like a week, and I don't know what to do with myself. And I say, and it's that kind of difference between like rest versus restlessness. And I am restless. And so luckily I found stuff to, the podcast, really, do some editing and stuff to keep me from going insane. But it's just, I miss working. I miss having my routine. So that's been my moment of the week, is just rest versus restlessness, and how I'm on the deep end of
Yeah, well,
restlessness.
keep on that, I guess I would say. Keep thinking about that because obviously we need to do what works for us. I often attend these, wellness or work, professional work well-being, and we talk about life-work balance. And I always feel like I'm on the outside because, as you know, I go to work 7 days a week, but I'm the tortoise. I'm slow and steady. I might not be, on the weekends here 8 hours, or maybe sometimes during the week, not 8 hours. But to me, like when you said routine, that was kicked in. I like to have that consistent routine. I get up, have my coffee, work out,
Anytime.
not with
Yep.
the life a little bit, get some work done. It just makes me feel productive. And at the end of the day is sort of when I'm shutting down, I guess, so it's not like I'm constantly on. But anyways, that just works for me. And I guess I just want you to find what works for you.
Yeah, I would one day hope to be a tortoise where I'm slow and steady, and I know that the cans of energy drinks keep me from being the tortoise. So something I need to work on. More
I mean, a
reflection,
crap tortoise, but you can still be a tortoise.
I suppose so. Anything on your end?
Well, I guess, we've talked about AI before, and for those that are new, that's my sabbatical is investigating artificial intelligence and learning and whatnot. And I'm also thinking about how it's changing how I think, right, or act or work. And going back to this leadership training I'm doing, I wanted to have this engaging welcome for everybody, right? We've been working for 3 months together, but it's all been virtual. So this time in Kansas City is we're sort of meeting each other in face to face for the first time. And I thought, well, I guess I can ask, a large language model to write a welcome that taps into each of the four frames, right? But then I said, no, I think I want to do that, right? I can, so I guess to me that was a little bit of a milestone. Just because AI could do it doesn't mean I want it to do it. And it's okay for us, you know, it's not always about efficiency sometimes. You see a lot of ads on, so, at least it's for me, social media saying, automate this. And well, maybe sometimes you just want to do things yourself. So I thought that was an interesting moment that, just because AI could be helpful doesn't mean I want it to be helpful.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And that even though AI is probably putting in a lot of energy to create something, it's not the same energy as if I do it myself. Like the sincerity, it just doesn't feel like it's there. So, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to get into our big topic.
Yeah, let's talk. That's why we're here.
Okay. After the last two episodes that we had, we've been talking about awe and novelty, and you know, after we had recorded our last episode, I was thinking a lot about moments of awe for me, and specifically moments of awe in which I felt connected to another person. which I felt like was that extra layer, that layer of like, okay, awe and then awe with somebody else or with a large collective. And one example that comes up a lot for me or that I think about a lot um, is whenever I went skydiving with my friend Connor. So Connor and I we'd been pretty close. We were friends for a while, a couple years. And so we had met through Maryville. His now wife went to Maryville with me. We were pretty good friends, I'd say. And then we decided that we were going to go skydiving together. It was a graduation gift from my parents. Was like, hey, here's this like gift card that you can use on maybe like these experiences. And I don't think that they wanted me to use it on skydiving, maybe something a little safer. But instead, I said, awesome, great. I want to jump out of a plane, and I don't think that that's what they intended when they told me that. So I knew I wanted to go with somebody, and Connor was somebody who was like, "Yeah, I would love to go do it." And so we went and we went skydiving together, and it was such a cool experience. And maybe while we're talking about it, I'll throw a clip of it on here because I've got all that recording. And I sometimes like to go back to it, but I just remember, first of all, the awe that I felt from that experience. The awe of just being in the plane, watching us go higher and higher and higher. The funny thing about skydiving is that when you pay for it, you pay by how high you go up, which makes sense because the higher you go up, the longer you're falling, right? So you're paying for time, but you're also paying for like mileage. You're kind of paying for gas too. Anyway, the plane that we were in, we were with other people. So it was Connor and I, and then like a bunch of other people who were skydiving. Well, we had paid for like the lowest one. So, not too expensive and, really rookie kind of jumping out of a plane, not the highest. Well, it's everybody else in the plane, we figured out, was going to the highest level that they could with the plane. And, we're strapped in and this plane is bare bones. There's nothing in it. It's just maybe one bench. That's it. So you can hear everything. We hear the pilot of the plane go, it's actually not cost effective and it actually wastes more gas for us to stop, let two people out, and then go back up, go higher, and then let everybody else out. So let's just take everybody up to the top for free or whatever. So pretty soon, Connor and I both look at each other. We're like, "Oh no, we didn't sign up for this. Like, I guess we're gonna get the full experience." And so they take us double the amount of altitude that we had originally signed up for. Anyway, fall out of the plane. It's an amazing experience, and I think about the awe that I experienced, but then I also think about how the awe that Connor experienced too, and how that shaped our relationship. And knowing that that experience is something that nobody else, like none of my other friends, have that experience with me and with each other. So like Connor and I have a different relationship with each other because of this experience, and through that, I mean, I felt significantly closer to him. Like just like as a friend, I was like going through the moment like that was just so awe-inspiring that even that we jumped out of that plane what maybe 3 4 years ago, and it still is something that sticks around. Like it has a residual effect to our relationship of like we did that together. Nobody else can say that they did that together. Uh, I'm making it sound like we were holding hands or something. Like we were holding hands jumping out of the crate. We could have. I should have asked. But the fact that when we touched down, we got back onto the ground. Something about our relationship was a little bit different. And I remember an hour after we had touched down and we got back down, we all ate lunch together. And like we were just laughing, like we would like eat a burger, and like look over at each other from across the table and just like just laugh, and like we wouldn't say a word, but like we both knew that like that was just a huge experience. So that's where it all started. That's where my brain started thinking about like awe and how we share it and how that reinforces like relationships and community. I'm going to pause. I want to get your thoughts on everything that I just shared from that story and if anything is resonating with you.
Well, there's always something resonating, but what I've been thinking about are these things that you just allowed me to sort of end, right? And so although it might have not have been, I might not be experiencing on now, but there was definitely, I'm sort of categorizing it as approaching or chasing that I still experience a connection to you because you're telling me of this great experience, right? That there's this other connection that way as well, which I thought, again, it's sort of what I'm thinking a lot now about since we've talked about all, I'm trying to notice it a lot more. And I know, again, I notice things that I know aren't fit the true definition of awe, but they still give me a positive emotion. So I guess I am starting to look at, I guess, the other benefits of chasing awe, I guess.
And so, and then I think about, oh, well, what about the opposite? So let's say that we both, hit the ground, after skydiving, and it's such a huge experience for me. That I'm like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And Connor is just like, eh. Like imagine, and so I imagine in my brain like what it would be like if I had experienced that awe sensation and it was not awe-inspiring for him. And while the experience, like, it doesn't take away my awe, our relationship wouldn't have been as close. Like we wouldn't have been able to share that feeling, that almost contagious feeling of awe with each other. And so our relationship wouldn't have kind of progressed the way that I feel like it had if if maybe he hadn't experienced awe from that moment. Maybe it was just pure terror and something else. And so I think about that too, of like it almost like it's a requirement that it has to be something that you both feel in that time. Thoughts on that?
Well, I guess just we touched on it a little bit last week, and maybe that's why we're kind of chatting about it more, is that it is the individual perception of, right? So it's how we interpret it. So two people can see the same thing and have a different experience of that. Um, and so what is, going to the botanical garden and seeing a flower bloom for one person could be okay if that's just a flower, but another person, they get awestruck by the biology of all the things that happen, the sunlight, the water, the nutrients from the ground, that this maybe only happens, once a year. How long does it,
Mhm.
um, again, individual perspective on that. I guess maybe if Connor had jumped 100 times, I guess I didn't know you didn't really share that if it was both your first time jumping out of a, yeah. So that's what I assumed. But maybe if it was his 100th time, or maybe did you solo you jumped with
We were like, I had a little backpack of a guy.
right, met a guy, yeah. So yeah, maybe the guy who's like your tandem, he was like, yeah, okay, I gotta do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be interesting actually to ask him or ask them how because they get, for, I guess there's repeat customers, but there's
Mhm.
the amount of it.
It all comes back to novelty, right? Like if I'm experiencing novelty at the same time that somebody else is experiencing novelty, like how that builds cohesion, how that builds connection. Um, because you do bring up something that's important, which is like I'm sure that as we were both going down, it was not, a very big experience for him. The reason why, I started going down this rabbit hole too is I was reading I have not gotten through the book. I'm supposed to get through the book. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm supposed to get through The Anxious Generation. Sorry.
Well, aren't you on break this week? You could be reading the book. Oh, actually, it's on my reading list too. So maybe we can
I
chat
gotta
it.
give it to you.
Well,
I'll just give you the book because I just can't seem to get through it. But I'm just hitting a dry spell, I think, in my reading. But I was trying to get back into it and read The Anxious Generation. And there's a segment that talks a lot about rituals and rituals being in part of culture as people develop in life. And especially young people, like the rituals that come whenever you reach adulthood. And essentially where that chapter ended was talking about how today there's rituals are very rare nowadays, and they're almost always concentrated towards religious practices, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, quinceañeras. What is it in church? Not community.
information, maybe.
Confirmation, yes, confirmation of like you are now an adult, and outside of those spaces there aren't really those that exist. And the the experiences of rituals that they were sharing in the book was a lot of like group and group experiences of like almost awe, experiences that I was thinking in my brain. Like some of them are like singing, some of them are like, like village wide experiences. And it got me thinking about ritualistic behavior and group norms and cohesion and where awe fits into that. And if awe can help continue building group cohesion and also the decline in rituals that we have now. I just said a lot there. What are your thoughts?
Well, it made me think about what rituals maybe I had as a youth. And I don't know if I had rituals because, well, maybe now they're memories, right? Like I remember, I guess this isn't a ritual, but I don't know, maybe it is. When you're younger, grammar school, middle school, maybe how much you love summer vacation and the things you did on summer. Maybe there were certain things like, I don't know, or maybe it's holidays too with those rituals or traditions, fireworks and, or just the traditions around being growing up Catholic Christmas, Christmas Eve, Christmas, that type of thing, family things. Um,
Well, growing up where I did, it was hunting. It
yeah.
was you going and you scroll through Facebook. On my Facebook, you're going to see a bunch of like 10-year-olds holding up their first deer that they shot, and that is like a seminal moment for them of like you are now different, and but that in itself is like a ritualistic behavior as well that I've noticed.
Well, then I guess ritualistic and even milestones. I guess again thinking about um, summer break. I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, my wife and I went back to Buffalo, and I connected with my friend who I've known almost 50 years now, who lived across the street from us. And so maybe this is where I'm thinking of the summer because we sort of lived on a busy street. There wasn't little houses. So it was just, for the most part, he and I, right? And we'd go ride bikes or play in his yard, play in my yard, play, sports, football, basketball. He's the one that got me into wrestling. But I guess like a milestone, if this was like how far we rode our bikes away from home, right? Or I don't know, maybe we got our first dirt bikes and we went, I don't know, running on the trail. So again, I don't know if those are really, I guess those aren't rituals because those are one-time things. But when you mentioned, getting your first buck, it made me think of those things.
And so, you know, the way that I gotta go through my notes. Let me make sure that I have everything. So, and this is, I feel like I've heard you say this term, but maybe I'm wrong. But like it's not modern research, I suppose, but this coined phrase of collective effervescence.
Yeah, I from the same, really the place you did from reading about awe that
Mhm.
there's this, again, experiencing awe when you're with a group of people going to again, a concert or a musical. I guess that's still a concert, like a theatrical show, um, graduations, sporting events.
And so I guess like because where my brain goes with all of this is how can a therapist, how do I put this into words? If a lot of therapy and counseling is based on relationship, right? Let's say it's just me and my client, right? The way in which they can build their relationship with me, like will directly affect probably the focus or the outcomes of their therapy and if they start to feel better. And then I think about, how jumping out of a plane really kind of fast and having that awe experience with Connor really fast tracked my relationship with him to like strengthen that cohesion. I then think about, okay, as a therapist, how can I, now obviously I don't want to take my client and throw them out of a plane with me, but how can I as a therapist, as a clinician, right? Maybe
Well, I mean, they have equine therapy. Maybe there's like parachute therapy. I mean,
and so that's to kind of where my brain goes. Whereas like how can like clinicians utilize like a shared feeling of awe maybe in session with a client to fast track rapport building.
yeah. Well,
That's where my brain goes.
and I guess you just saying that, it made me think of group counseling and how we want to reproduce the social microcosm here, working in the here and now in here. Like, and you said relationships too. So how is that? when a group is highly functioning, can the highly functioningness of the group become an awe experience? Like if there's this collective effervescence and we're all working towards a goal, maybe there's a, whether it's everybody hitting a milestone or somebody's really happy for one or two people creating. So I think there is. And again, I wonder if going back to your other comment of about relationships and whether it has to be you, but maybe you are working with your client on having a better relationship with society as a whole, again, thinking about all being reducing the a small self perspective that we kind of talked about in the notes that maybe you're in a big group of people, but you take the step back, right? And or maybe you take the step back and can look at the stars. But to me, that's still, I guess, a relationship with, right? Society. Maybe it's a relationship with yourself as well, with others. So I think there are ways that, giving those types of homework assignments, if you will, um, noticing those times you're feeling connected, maybe, right?
Yeah. I feel closer to my clients whenever like real world experiences typically happen, like a tornado drill, and we have to leave the office. Like, okay, like, and it's not maybe awe, but like it is a very here and now experience. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say maybe it might not be awe, but it is where it's take. We need to look out because a natural disaster is happening. So again, it's making us the small self. So making us have more of an outward focus versus an inward focus. So again, maybe that's also one of the benefits of the here and now, right? That we can sort of
Hmm.
shift that focus.
And so whenever I think about like ritualistic behaviors and like group norms, I am reading this book, Anxious Generation, and a lot of it does talk about how, sense of community is like on an all-time low, essentially, and how each generation, since the 2010s has just continued to feel more isolated and less community and so those I truly believe that those feelings of awe that can be experienced with somebody else or in a large community gathering are becoming less and less and less. And that's just what the stats tell us. That's what the statistics tell us. And then the second part of my brain is like, okay, then what then? What is the role as a mental health therapist or a clinician or just a counselor or even an educator in that piece of building more group ritualistic behaviors that don't have to involve, okay, you got to go to group therapy for you to experience these things.
Well, yeah, I'd say that could have been the mentor moment for us to think about and chew on. I always think about like a continuum or a pendulum, and so maybe we are at one end of the pendulum of feeling isolated, and that we are working our way back, or maybe instead of like a societal pendulum, it's individual. Like
Hmm.
I was listening to the radio this morning while working out, and the DJs were sort of talking about their social media use. And is there I'm seeing more and more people sort of break away from it or use it less. And so maybe that's whether that was outwardly purposeful or not, but maybe again, that is what you're saying. Maybe those are ways they're trying to be more connected. I have a terrible habit. I don't know. Has nothing to do. Maybe this is more. Well, maybe it's social media. I have a terrible habit of falling asleep during the shows that we watch at night, right? And it's mildly annoying. If so sometimes to stay awake. If I play on the phone, I can stay awake, but then you miss half the show. I'm trying to make it now a conscious effort to pay attention to the show and put down the phone and stay awake to be connected with my wife, right? Sometimes we're both fine sometimes being in the same room together, but both being on our devices, but at least we're in the same room together, right? But so again, not awe here, but just being connected.
How I'm just wondering what shows you're watching.
Well, we're watching True Detectives right now. If we
Oh, that's good.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
3, so we're 5 episodes into season 3. So what I've learned about True Detectives, everybody smokes. I don't know how everybody doesn't have cancer. So
That is true, though. That is the thing I forgot about. And I guess, like, this book was, the anxious generation was talking about how a lot of these ritualistic behaviors usually involve like a song or like some form of dance that is involved, like, which then made me think of, oh, what a cool like cohesive moment, and then made me think of like modern day concerts, like you go to a concert and everyone's singing together and they all feel cohesive together. But then I also understand that for some people that going to a concert, it might be their only like their only avenue to experience that larger, cohesion of, either music, dance, or some form of cohesion that is, it doesn't even have to be music, but like some form of giant crowd, not giant crowd, some form of crowd cohesive movement that is like that. And the only avenue that I feel like modern individuals have now is going to a concert, other than maybe a religious practice, but like those are on, the way out from, what the stats look like. And so that it just made me think about, wow, like, is that necessary? Is that a part of like the human condition that like we need really, really badly that we're just not getting anymore? That's kind of where my brain was going from, like, I guess, an evolutionary anthropological frame.
well, I was reading one article last week. It was more on novelty, but there was some researcher saying that similar to like Pavlov, Maslow and the hierarchy needs, that novelty is one of those basic needs that we need. So I think, I mean, again, I don't know if all is needed, but I think we are social creatures. So there is that. Well, I guess I just often think about, I think I'm very social, but I also think, again, I'm okay being by myself. And that's easy to say that I'm married. So, like, I never have to be by myself for extended period of times to really feel lonely, if you will. So it's hard to really say I'm in both. But um, I think about maybe individuals who are in solitary confinement. There's nothing but except their thoughts there. It's okay. Yeah, I'm by myself. I could still watch TV, or I'm there by myself. I still have the dog, or I have but the phone, versus truly being isolated. Or if you're going solo hiking, but at least you have nature to sort of be your partner. Where if you just have these walls and not really much to see the difference there.
And then I also wonder, I don't know. I think of like prison chapel or like prison church services. And I wonder how much of it is from a religious aspect of like you feel that spirituality of like you feel like you're fulfilling that need. And I also wonder about like this might be the only place that you can be in a room full of people and sing together, regardless of the topic. So
Well, I'm sure that's a piece of it there, right? There's situational whatever, like I'm interested now after you bring this up that on the evolutionary nature of how each of us go through our own pendulum swings, right? Like how do we sort of get here? Then is it self-regulatory behavior that we can sort of adjust to make sure we're getting what we need? And maybe that's a milestone for these adolescents, right? The anxious generation is there's this awareness of how to self-regulate. Like how do I maybe I can't get all these connections through here, right? And I need to put it down and then
yeah,
bring different out.
it's funny. There's a, the typical thing that I think I heard growing up, and I think a lot of people heard growing up, like in the phone generation, is like you'll hear like a parent or a grandparent say like, "Well, it's that damn phone," about like like maybe you're falling behind on like grades, or maybe you're not like doing your chores, and the typical thing that you'll hear is, "Well, it's always because of that damn phone." And then I was scrolling through social media, believe it or not, funny enough, ironic, and there was a video of somebody, like, and the title of their, like, video was, "It really is that damn phone." And, like, it was talking about how believe it or not, our parents and their parents are probably a little right, and that like it's time to kind of shake from that. So you are touching on something that I think is important, which is the pendulum is swinging. We see that with the dumb phones now. We see that with the timer apps. We see
Yeah.
that
School systems now limiting.
Missouri's going to be phone free in schools. That's wild. I wonder how they're going to do that. Then I wonder about, are we doing college students? Are we doing them a disservice whenever they do go to college and they do have access to their phones? Like, will that set them up for success or for failure? I don't know. It's too early to tell, but I wonder about that of like, hey, the law now here in Missouri is that you're not going to be able to have phones while you're here at school. And then, by the way, next year, you're going to have full access to all of that. And you're going to be able to have your phone in college. And I wonder if those college students will be sitting in class going, whoa, or if they'll have already or if they'll have no desire to be on their phone in college.
It's yeah, maybe that's another pendulum for them.
I think a lot about the here and now. You were touching on that earlier, and to really lean into it. A story or an experience that I had one time. It's a gross story. It's should I even tell it? I'll tell it, and we'll see what happens. There was one time where I was in the middle of a session with a high school boy, and my stomach felt a little bad, and I was having a really hard time like concentrating, honestly. So I thought, let me just go use the bathroom real quick, come back. It'll be 5 minutes tops. It's okay. Excuse myself. We're in the middle of the session. We're like literally halfway through. I go to the bathroom. Stomach changes completely. I throw up. I think I ate something bad. It was definitely that. Like I ate something bad. It wasn't like stomach flu or anything like that. Like I was completely healthy, but I threw up. You know, took care of myself. Whatever. And I walked back into the session room, and my client's still there. Of course, he doesn't know. I mean, I think I did a fairly good job of like, I mean, there's no like vomit on me or anything like that. But I walk in, and I kind of had a choice. I was like, I could finish the session, and he would have no clue that I just threw up a little bit, or I could like lead into this like crazy weird thing and just let him know that, and it's a very here and now thing. And so I chose the second option, and I told him, I said, "Hey, guess what I just did? I just threw up." And, not to, and luckily, I didn't make it all about me, but it opened up a pathway for like, have you ever been in an experience like that? And it built trust. It was a very here and now moment. And I'm not going to say that me throwing up was maybe awe inspiring. It was definitely awful. Uh,
Well, it's novel, if nothing else,
it
right?
was novel, right? And he probably has never had somebody leave, then come back and say he just like, I mean, I don't think he probably had ever had a teacher say that or a therapist nonetheless. So it was definitely a novel experience for both of us. And I feel like even that little moment of authenticity, of novelty kind of shaped that. So I don't know what my tip is in that other than maybe continue to be authentic, lean into the novelty. Uh, but if you throw up, you're allowed to call the session off, like check yourself, like that's okay. Uh, I think that's my counselor's corner.
Well, I guess I would say similar to what I said in the session about self-regulation. If you're concerned about feeling disconnected or in isolation, try and put your phone down.
It's hard to do, especially if you're at TikTok.
Again, it's automatic for me too. Like, oh, I need to check this, check that. Are there again? It's the solution focus. Small change leads to bigger change.
All right, resource review. My resource review would be, the book that I've already been talking about today, which is The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. It's definitely not a new book. And I know at the very beginning, I was just saying how I'm having a hard time getting through it. But it is a lot of knowledge, and it talks a lot about phones, and it talks a lot about play and how we need play and how we need novel experiences to become better adults and to become more, ready for the world. And so I just felt like that book was very topical and very, on brand, kind of what we've been chatting about. So that's my resource review.
Well, I'm reading Brave New World, How AI Will Revolutionize Education and Why That's a Good Thing by Solomon Kahn, founder of the Khan Academy. I'm
Ooh.
about, I don't know, 109 pages in. It's a good, if you're on board with AI, you'll be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm on board with it." So, it's an interesting read.
Okay. You kind of already gave some mentor moments. I feel like I've already given some mentor moments. Do you have any last takeaways, last pieces of advice?
And next week, that's my advice.
Tune in next week. Thank you for listening to Mentor Moments. If you liked what you heard, give us a follow. And join us again in 2 weeks for another conversation about counseling, education, tech, and career development.